What up? Hey, Janice, how you doing? Thank you for joining us
What's
on
up?
the
Happy birthday,
Political Deep Dive.
Janice.
Yes, happy birthday.
Happy
I was
belated.
all, we were sad not to have you here last week, but we understand because I would rather, well, no, I'd rather hang out with you guys on my birthday because y'all are awesome. So,
We are awesome.
well, rumors of my death were damn near accurate. No, actually, it wasn't that bad. I did get COVID this week. If y'all watched last week, my voice was straining. I was feeling rough. I assumed that I had strep throat. I went to urgent care on Monday morning after the show, or Monday afternoon after the show, and they looked inside my mouth and said, "Man, your tonsils were swollen." And so I was, they said, well, let's do the tests for COVID and strep and RSV and all that stuff. So they did the throat swab test, and then they did the brain duster for COVID. And they said, go home. We'll call you with the results. I went home about a half hour later. I get called, and they're like, well, good news, you don't have strep, but bad news, you got COVID. So after 4 years of avoiding it, I finally got COVID. It sucked.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
I, it,
but
Dan's
well,
dealing with his own stuff, and I would compare it to pneumonia, like walking pneumonia.
yeah, I have pneumonia now. If you guys hear me, like, I'll start to lose my breath. I have to pause, step back, etc. Thank you, Facebook user.
You
Um,
too.
but what I'm going to do the which wise old owl is it from our youth? Is it the
The
wise
Tootsie
old
Roll,
owl, the Tootsie Roll, or
Tootsie
but
Roll.
there's also a give a hoot, don't pollute wise old owl. Uh, okay, I'll take the either one.
I'm gonna go Tootsie Roll.
But so one of the things I'm going to talk about important right now is to what we're doing is that according to the 25th Amendment, which was ratified in the 70s, I believe, might be the 80s, but it slightly changed the order of succession for the presidency. That becomes important here because we also have an order of succession for the show. And so it goes Dave and then AJ and then me until the 25th Amendment was ratified. And now it's Dave and then me and now AJ. And I say that because when Dave is incapacitated, it take calls to me to introduce everybody, which you didn't do this time. So, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, thanks so much for being here. It's really great to have you guys at the show. Political Deep Dive is a place where we talk about political issues going on in the country, but also we like to have a little fun, a little jokes, and then we usually
Lots
do
of
a
fun.
news quiz at the end. So I'm happy to be joined in this by my first number one co-host, uh, Mr. Shrinkage, Dave Valente. How's it
Shrinkage.
going, Dave?
I don't know.
All right. And then from deepest, darkest Tennessee, uh, the mistress of mirth, the madam of mayhem, our friend AJ. AJ, how's it going?
Hey,
AJ.
you made me sound super cool, so I'm like fan-damn-tastic now.
You are super cool. Well, let's talk about the headband first, right? Because the headband is like super hip. It's
Thank you very much.
is it
Almost
is
has
it
It
like
one of
a
those
it's
flowers?
flag
much
of
older
Maryland.
than me. I inherited a bunch of headscarves from 2
Interesting.
different grandmothers, and I wear them all actually. Uh,
That's cool.
so there's
And
that.
you know, scarves were one of those things that were a really nice fashion piece for a long time, then went away. But I remember my mom loved, excuse me, Liberty scarves, which is a special brand of scarves. And when I went to school in England, she asked me to bring her back a Liberty scarf. So it was a very meaningful thing for me to do. Um, but
Liberty.
then, you know, a lot of people think of scarves as like things that you only wear for warmth, anything like that. Maybe that's only men. Maybe women always know that scarves are also incredible accessories, but also a good survival uh, thing. A lot of people don't know this. One of the other things we like to talk about on the show is different religions. And so, you know, Sikhs, who are a religious order out of India, um, loosely in the branch of Hinduism, but they are the warriors. And part of their lifestyle commandments are that they always have to have at least 5 weapons with them. And so if you see Sikhs wearing turbans, and please don't think that somebody wearing a turban is a Muslim, because Sikhs are actually anti-Muslim warriors specifically. The turban, they take classes on learning how to use it as a weapon. So it counts as one of their weapons. And I always thought a scarf is like that too, because in addition to, doing weapon things with it, my people have a history of using slingshots to fell Goliath. And so the scarf is also a weapon in my history. All right. That's as far as I can go
Well,
on one.
that's amazing.
There you go.
That
All right.
that was amazing.
That was amazing. So it is a free for all Sunday. And what that means is that we take various topics throughout the week and talk about them. But we also do a kind of we call it it's an Our World segment where we talk about a country on this planet, doing a little bit of a dive into that country.
This planet only? We're not
Well, I
talking
mean, I'm not aware of any countries on other planets. And, if we do get, I mean, wherever Marjorie Taylor Greene is from, maybe we can figure that out. But
I don't wanna know no, whatever grew to her can just
isn't
stay
that
hidden.
crazy?
Well,
Um,
Jesus.
it's funny because people think that she's from Georgia in the United States, but she's actually from Georgia in Central
so
Asia.
former Soviet Republic of Georgia.
Exactly, Ossetia and Tbilisi, I believe. No, not Tbilisi. It's the capital of Georgia.
Yeah, it's Tbilisi.
It is Tbilisi. Yeah, see,
Yeah,
that's the thing. The
COVID brain.
ammonia gives you a little bit of the brain fog too.
Yeah, COVID brain is real, man. I was
COVID
driving
brain
around and I was
real.
like, "What the?" I just felt
It's
disconnected. Like I
crazy.
wasn't driving the car, but I mean, I got where I needed to go. So
The second time I was diagnosed with COVID, um, it was because I was really angry. Like, really, like, nothing like, really small things were pissing me the fuck off. Like, I was so intensely
nice.
angry, and I was like, "Oh, I better take a COVID test." And I did. I literally came home and was like, "Yep, that's what's up." But that's what pissed me off is it was just like nothing. Like a stupid stop sign, like, "Why are they waiting so long? They could have gone." It's like, "What is wrong with me?"
Well, I mean, that's like me. Like if I'm at work, I've every third word is a curse word. So anyway, let's talk about our country. It is the country of
Okay.
Cape Verde, and I've got a short video for everybody.
All right.
Ooh.
Cape Verde is off the coast of the Senegal. It's an island nation. It achieved independence in 1975 from Portugal. It is rated the most democratic country in Africa, even though it's not actually in Africa. Praia Santiago Island is the capital of the country, and the prime minister is Ulysses Correa e Silva. Um, it is a beautiful island nation, as you can see. Lots of history here. Part of the transatlantic slave trade is part of the Portuguese colony. Once that dried up, really it was kind of a way station between Africa and going across the Atlantic. And right now, it's a big thing for them is tourism. Beautiful capital city with a lot of European style architecture, as you would expect, and I just look how beautiful it is. It's an amazing little
Amazing.
country. And again, routinely ranked as one of the top 50 democratic countries in the planet, tops on the African continent. Um, it bring back to the regular screen here. Um, it, it had its challenges when it first became independent because it took so long for the country to get independent. Portugal was kind of one of the last countries to really relinquish a lot of their colonial dependencies in Africa. Um, and once the Portuguese had a coup in the early 70s, and after that, they started relinquishing some of their colonies, and with that was Guinea-Bissau, Angola, and the Cape Verde. And early on, Cape Verde did have its challenges. They did kind of have one-party rule until the 1990s when the Iron Curtain fell, and they opened up to multi-party democracy, and have done really well since then. And uh, their advantage is that they're an island nation. They're fairly close to Europe. It's a place where people can get to vacation during the winter months in Europe. So, um,
Well,
uh,
and it is really close to the equator too.
yeah,
It is north of the equator, but definitely south of the whatchamacallit, the tropic line.
yeah,
And so the weather is consistently good. One of the things that's really important, uh, hey, can you call up a Google map screen? I would talk about some things and show a map when we do it.
sure,
Because there's a lot of confusion that happens. So Boston has a large Cape Verdean population, um, mainly because Boston is a naval town. And Cape Verde has this thing that is really important about it geographically, which is that it is islands that are really close to the North and South America.
oh,
And if you look at anybody who's ever lived anywhere close to the East Coast has seen a hurricane map. And what will happen during hurricane season is you see all these storms move. Let's see, I'll do it from here across your screen, across the map from Africa, from the Sahara to the Caribbean and to North America. One of the reasons that this is such an important port for the slave trade is that when the time is right, the wind just blows in a direct line for like 3.5 months, 4 months from the Canary Islands straight through to Barbados. And it's such a quick run. Now, during that time, you're not near any land. You are on the Atlantic Ocean, which is the scariest of all the oceans. But if you time it right, and this is certainly before people really learn stuff. Awesome, yeah. So just see if we can blow that up a little bit. We get rid of the stuff on the left. Because the other thing I
uh,
want to talk about is
yeah. I did that, and it disappears the marker, but you can see where Cape Verde is once
okay.
I
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
blow
Well,
this up.
zoom in on it. But you can see how, yeah,
It's right
where Cape
here.
Verde is. Zoom in, and then you show sort of where the Barbados is. You can see that they're not that far apart. Like you can, even on Dave's map, you can see like right, you can get them together. So that is a nice short run. The other thing that's worth mentioning is that a lot of times Cape Verde is confused for the other island chains that have also been owned by Portugal. So right up there to the northeast is the Canary Islands. Uh, those are not Cape Verde, but also very nice. And then to the northwest from there is Madeira, and then a little further northwest is the Azores.
Yeah,
None of those are Cape Verde. Cape Verde is a really cool town, and as Janice points out, birthed from a volcano.
yep.
And that's another important thing to think about because those of you who know Hawaii, or right now there's a volcano going off in Iceland, volcanoes happen from hot spots in the crust of the earth. And we don't think of them as happening a lot in the Atlantic, but they do. And so we don't know when the next one's going to let go. These are a lot older than the Pacific volcanic islands, but they're cool.
And there have been concerns that not only with the Canary Islands and the Azores and Cape Verde that with the mountains there, if there is a active volcano that happens, that some of them can send rocks into the sea and create tsunamis and would race across the Atlantic. There's a concern. I can't remember if it's the Azores or Cape Verde or Canaries, but one of those island chains. There's concerns that could send a mountain down sliding down the side and into the ocean and causing a massive tsunami that would wipe out the East Coast. But yeah, I think we've got.
Yeah, I'm less worried about that than I am about like the destructive power of the volcano itself on a heavily populated area.
Or
However, we're also so much better than we ever have been at detecting volcanoes.
yes.
I don't think there's been a true surprise eruption of a volcano. We don't know exactly when it is, but we usually know the volcano is going to erupt sometime in the next few
Well, it's
months.
yeah, because you get a big increase in seismic activity
Yep,
in the area.
yep,
That's what they've been talking about with the volcano by Grinvik, Iceland, that has caused the second time in a month that they've evacuated the city,
yep.
and it's going off again now. So Grinvik is where they have the beautiful blue lagoon thermal spas. So hopefully those don't get ruined, but I probably wouldn't want to get in those waters anytime soon. Probably get boiled alive at
Oh,
this point.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because the water cools things really quickly. There's
Sure,
a
it's cold,
large
clean
volume
water.
there.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like, I love hot springs. Like, if you can take me to a hot spring in a mountain, man, I'm
Oh
happy to
yeah.
sit down and do that sort of thing.
I got to get up
We've been
to Jemez in New Mexico, up to Jemez Springs, and hit the thermal spas. There's actually a really close one here, Berkeley Springs, which used to be like a big health spa for the rich and notables of Washington D.C. would come out to West Virginia for these spas. But the big one now is owned by Klansmen, so nobody goes to it anymore.
interesting. There's one that's close to AJ, relatively speaking, one state over to the left, to the west, in Hope, Arkansas, which is also the birthplace of,
Bill Clinton.
absolutely. But Hope, Arkansas is where FDR used to go to get his treatments for his polio. And the it's crazy if you go there because, right, you are in the middle of rural Arkansas, right? I mean, you go into a lot of restaurants and squirrel is on the menu in most places.
Mm.
But there are these beautiful baths, ornate Roman style columns and stuff like that. And people go there and, as they used to say, take the vapors or hang out in these hot spring baths. And having been in them, I don't know if it's the placebo effect or whatever, but I really do believe there's a curative power there.
Interesting. I've never really done. I mean, I've done the hot springs up at Jemez before, but I mean, for me, it was just kind of a cool little thing. Um, rather than doing anything healing or anything like that. But Janice is and Craig are putting in some good stuff about
I
Cape
like
Verde.
talking about
Making a
that.
safe destination for tourists. Absolutely, as you can see from that video, the islands there are absolutely beautiful. Lots of phenomenal beaches and things to do while you're there. Um, Sex work is legal in Cape Verde, which is cool. Portugal, their former colonial masters have been very. Uh, I think they've kind of pulled some of the stuff from Portugal. I don't know about their stance on drugs, if they're as liberal as Portugal is on
One of the,
drugs,
yeah,
but
it's interesting because you think of the countries that have legalized prostitution and that have done it well. Obviously, the Netherlands have done it pretty well. New
Germany.
Zealand has done it extremely well. Cape Verde's got some problems. There's no question that there is some trafficking, there is some child prostitution, things like that. I would say if you're looking for a sex tourism place, Cape Verde is not the happiest place to go. I
Mm,
mean, sex work is work. I support people's right to do it. However,
not forced
yeah,
consent.
exactly.
Yeah,
There needs to be a little bit of
clean
oversight.
it up. Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
clean it up a little bit. Yeah.
no.
But yeah,
And the food,
February to June, which makes sense. I mean, I don't think there's really a bad time to visit Cape Verde, where it's located, as far as temperatures go and
Right.
weather goes. I would say you're right as far as February to June. June then starts the Atlantic hurricane season, and we were talking about how those things kind of come from Africa, that area of Africa, across into the Caribbean. So maybe a little more storm activity as you get into the summer months. But uh, I don't know
Right.
that I would ever turn down a trip to Cape Verde for
Oh, I
at any
love
time.
to. And I am also fascinated by island cuisine
Mm,
because, islands don't necessarily have the opportunity to have large animal ranches.
yeah,
Now, that's not true in Hawaii. On the Big Island is the second largest cattle ranch in the world. But Cape Verde, not a lot of beef. There's some cattle there, but a lot more chicken. There's some pork, stuff like that. But there's a wide variety of amazing fruits and vegetables.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love island cuisine. I love fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, fresh fish, um,
I could do that.
stews, things like that. I
Tons of
mean,
fish.
yeah.
Could do that.
All right. Well, I
All
guess
right.
that's
I guess that settles it. That's where we're going, huh?
Yeah,
I
that's where
mean,
we're gonna have
if
our
I
first
yeah,
in
we've
person.
talked about, zombie apocalypse. Where would you go? Uh, that's not a bad island nation.
No,
That hopefully would be relatively safe.
yeah,
Uh,
it's 400 miles away from the closest
I'm
yep,
gonna need
city of any
so
note.
much
right.
sunscreen.
And the nice thing about that is that it's only really one big uh, airport, but that airport is so far away that if you really had a little zombie problem, hopefully the zombies would take the plane out before the plane got to the island.
Yeah,
I would hope. And this, for those of you who want to sail there, I talked about the trade winds going west. What you want to do is you want to sail back up to the north and come across at the end of the summer because there the weather patterns are traveling west to east. And then you sail down the European and the African coast, et cetera, et cetera.
nice, excellent. All right. Um, let's see. Monday tomorrow, we start the
Mm.
fun time. Oh, wait a minute. 71% of Cape Verdes are Creole or mulatto. Yeah, and if you look at where it's located on the map, it is just off of Africa, but it's really closer to Brazil than anything. And you know that Portugal had Brazil and the Azores and Madeira and all those islands there, that kind of was part of their whole African trade and everything. So um, yeah, it does have a large population of Creole and mixed race folks, but
Yeah, and I know, Janet, that you got that from, those aren't your words, they're cut paste. I will add in that I think I choose not to use the term mulatto anymore.
mm,
I think people have found it to be
denigrating.
it's an old term.
Mm,
Uh, so a lot of times people just say either mixed race or interracial or something like that. Um, my 2 cents on it. However, if you want to see a fantastic take on it, there is a episode of the Larry David Show where learns this lesson, and he goes to a birthday party for a child who's of mixed race, and he specifically goes and tries to buy a mulatto doll. Walks around the store to find that until he does. So that's cringeworthy as you would think, but
that does sound like, well, it sounds like something that Larry David would do
it's
and
classic.
highlight. Yeah. So yeah, Monday we start the primary process. It's the first in the nation caucus of Iowa. We talked about it last week. Um, the
Let's
big
talk about why it's only Republicans.
Yeah. So the Democrats have been trying to rearrange the election calendar to move away from Iowa and New Hampshire as their first in the nation primaries, and do something that's a little bit more representative of, especially within their voting bloc. They've been trying to promote South Carolina as their first in the nation stuff,
Yeah,
and Joe Biden has a lot of Joe Biden's campaign was kind of dead in the water until he got to South Carolina last time, and then there were deals made, folks got out, and um, the dean of the South Carolina delegation really went to bat for him and got him his first big primary win in 2020. That really revived his campaign and pushed him into the nomination, really cleared the path, put him head to head against Bernie. And at that point, you knew Bernie wasn't going to beat Biden. Um, so
well, it's interesting because as
the,
far as
the
I was concerned, until everybody united behind him,
yeah,
behind Biden against Bernie, Bernie was going to win.
and yeah, but the establishment in the
Yeah,
Democratic Party is a lot stronger than it is in the Republican Party, and of course, now that establishment of the Republican Party is Trump. I mean
right,
that is the mainstream of the Republican Party now.
right.
Um, but the establishment of the Democratic Party didn't want to, Trumpify the Democratic Party. They when you think about it, the Democratic Party does have a huge advantage now, just not being the Trump Party.
Yeah, because well, and so it ties in
Yeah.
greatly to the predicted second place person now
Hmm.
is former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, and uh, they did a poll of Nikki Haley voters, and 50% of them said they would vote for Joe Biden over Donald Trump,
Yeah,
which is pretty interesting.
it is.
But it
It
makes
is
sense.
interesting.
I mean, if they're willing to vote, they are Republicans who are willing to vote for a woman. Already, they're in a small demographic of Republicans. The Republicans just haven't been great on women's issues. I
Mhm.
actually think Nikki Haley could do much better if she really started ringing that bell. But she has to wake up to who she actually is.
Yeah, I mean, I watched that debate with her and Ron DeSantis, and here's the thing that kept because she would every time that Ron DeSantis would accuse her of something that she would there was this website DeSantis Lies that she kept referring people to, um, and that she kept calling him a liar and lying about her record. The ease at which she can call anybody else that's running against her a liar, but just completely ignore all the lies and the stuff that Donald Trump has done and not call him out is
Right.
amazing. It's breathtaking. Like
Right.
just
Well,
just do that, and you are
it's interesting because she worked for him,
yeah,
right? She was secretary or the
UN
ambassador to the UN.
ambassador. Yeah,
And I think about that, and it's a mixed bag. On the one hand, I really think that if you work for somebody terrible, you are to a certain extent facilitating their agenda. On the other hand, there are several reports of people who say that they sort of bit the bullet to be in Trump's cabinet to stop him from doing truly crazy shit.
yeah. I mean, you
Uh,
can make the case for like Rex Tillerson and a couple
yeah,
other folks,
exactly
but
where I was going to go. So first of all, right, Rex gave up probably the cushiest job in the world. He was a CEO for Exxon, um, to become Secretary of State. And a lot of people scoffed and said he didn't have any experience. But, frankly, CEO for Exxon, you can do anything that sort of involves
yeah,
people doing stuff.
yeah,
Um, and he did a good job of that for a while. And then he just couldn't take it anymore.
no,
And, Trump started realizing you're not doing what I told you to do. On the other hand,
exactly.
here we are with this disaster about to win, I think, over, excuse me, over 50% of the vote. I think
So
Trump will win over 50%.
yeah, we'll talk about predictions here in a second and
All right.
percentages. Um, but the big thing in the room right now is Iowa. Yes, they're hardy. They'll go to the caucuses and vote, but we're talking about like record cold temperatures on the night of the caucus, and the caucuses are held at night. It's not like they vote throughout the day. It's held at a time certain in the evening. Votes are tallied and gathered across the state, and then reported. Uh, you know how? I mean, it really does speak to who's the organization of the candidates going into Iowa. Can you get your folks out to vote? Now, I think that Donald Trump voters are very
Determined.
dedicated.
Excited.
They're
Yeah.
gonna show up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can Nikki Haley get her supporters to show up? Um, can she get enough of them in the urban settings, the suburban settings to vote for her? She did get a big boost this week, and honestly, she's not really hard fighting for Iowa. She's put most of her eggs in the New Hampshire basket.
Yeah.
But she did get the biggest boost this week when former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie decided to drop out of the race. It was, that whole unite behind a candidate that's not Trump.
Yep. And he
Um,
has, although he has criticized her for not
yeah,
going after Trump more, he has
Uh-huh.
also said nice things about her.
yeah.
And it wouldn't, she did say that she would not seek his endorsement, but that's fine. I don't think that,
I think the natural inclination, if you're a Chris Christie voter, if you're looking for it, are you going to go to Asa Hutchinson, or are you going to go to Nikki Haley?
yeah, but I mean, Hutchinson isn't even campaigning anymore, is he?
I mean, I see him on CNN every once in a while. Like, but that's about the
He,
only thing I see with Hutchinson.
yeah, I mean, in the last poll, he finished, the last poll in Iowa, Asa Hutchinson finished second among men named Asa behind Asa Butterfield. So,
I It's like what was it, like 1988, where General Alexander Haig dropped out of the race and endorsed Pat Robertson or something like that. It's like Alexander Haig was polling at 0%. Thanks a lot, Al.
right, right. It's interesting because also, uh, there's, I will repeat this poem again. It's my favorite political poem. Fortune strums a mournful tune for he whose campaign peaks too soon. And Trump is really big right now, right? He's been hot for a long time. But, there's a pattern of do okay in Iowa, don't get destroyed in New Hampshire, and win in South Carolina.
Yeah,
And John McCain rode that to primary
2008.
victory in
Yeah,
2008.
I mean
Mm.
yeah, you can, because Iowa is the evangelical state. That's where you're going to get the evangelicals. To an extent, you're going to get them in South Carolina as well.
Right.
Um, but there is a path for Nikki Haley. I'll go to each of you. What do you think the percentages for Trump and for Nikki Haley will be on Monday?
I think Trump 64%, Haley 24%, Rhonda 12%, and that's it.
Yeah, everything
Everybody
else
else is
is single
small
digits.
percentage. Yeah,
Yeah.
single digit.
What about you, AJ?
Ugh, percentages. I don't like that. Maybe Trump's definitely going to get it, and it'll way over 50%. I think Nikki Haley and Ron will be not far behind. Evangelicals are weird about women,
Yeah.
so she may
I
not do well with them.
Yeah,
So my thinking is that Trump is gonna underperform a little bit. I think he's gonna be saved by the fact that it's cold and it's hard to get not as enthused supporters to the polls. I do think that Nikki Haley beats Ron DeSantis and really If she beats Ron DeSantis, I think that is the torpedo in the side of his campaign.
Oh
Like
yeah,
he's done. He can't. He's not going to win. Like there's not going to be a comeback in New Hampshire for him. And then she, immediately they go to her home turf. Like that's
right. Uh, Nate Silver wrote a great piece about that and said, if uh, DeSantis finishes behind Nikki Haley, as he will, he joins he's going to enter the Hall of Fame of, let me get the quote right here, the Hall of highly underachieving candidates, joining
Jeb
Jeb Bush, Scott Walker,
Scott
Rick
Walker.
Perry,
Yeah. Oh,
Kamala
Fred.
Harris,
Who
Rudy
is
Giuliani. Yeah.
who's the former Fred Thompson? Former.
Fred Thompson is on that list.
Yeah.
Former
Was
senator from
Tennessee?
Tennessee, North Carolina,
Tennessee,
Tennessee.
Tennessee,
Yeah.
Tennessee.
Former
but
Yeah,
actor.
also star
he
of
is
Law and
one.
Order,
Yes,
Law and Order, and was on the Hunt
several
for Red
movies.
October. Yeah.
Yeah.
I met him. I met him on a field trip to the
Yep.
Capitol when I was in elementary school.
Oh wow.
He
Okay.
smelled like a grandfather.
I mean, he
That's what I
probably is.
remember. That's it. That's all
Like
I remember.
mothballs.
Yes,
Excuse me.
he smelled like an old person.
uh,
That's what I
yeah,
remember.
yeah, but I think Trump goes in about 52%, and
Yep.
then Haley is in the 20s, low 20s. DeSantis is in the mid teens, and then everything else is below 10%. And everybody else at that point will go. Should be making arrangements to drop out and figure out what they're doing from there. That's your, and really DeSantis should be as well.
Yep.
But your Vivek Ramaswamy's, your Doug Borgums, your
It,
Asa Hutchinsons need to be.
it's weird that Trump started hacking Vivek, which if people have been following it, he really went after him this week. Um, I don't
What's up, Jake?
know. I wonder if it's almost by attacking him, I am promoting his campaign because he wants to somehow. I mean, I can see Trump thinking that Vivek, Vivek being in the race hurts Haley because then they split the Indian vote. I'm making that up.
I
But
know. I
I mean,
mean,
obviously, Trump is crazy. But
Trump. Yeah,
I don't know what his
Yes.
deal is with going after Vivek right now. Welcome, James. I want to talk about Ken's thing. Federal prosecutors to not lose cases. There's a 100% chance Trump is in prison on election day. I don't know about a 100% chance. What are you going to say, AJ?
he said,
Uh,
from your lips to God's ears.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think there's a 50% chance, but I think that there's going to be a lot of stays, and Supreme Court is gonna push it off past the election.
Which, yeah, I mean, uh, can it will depend on what happens with Georgia. I think Georgia is going to be a linchpin that might.
Don't say Georgia and lynching in the same sentence
Yeah, that's
anymore.
true.
Sorry. Uh, it's interesting. Really,
What?
Vivek was with Vermin? That's awesome. You know, we probably should talk about that.
Did Vermin glitter him? Because if he didn't, that's just lame.
We, Vermin is running as Democrat in the
And yeah,
Democratic primary, which is
although from what I hear, the Democratic primary in New Hampshire got canceled.
did it?
Yeah,
Those are
protection
jerks.
of Joe
Joe
Biden. They
Biden.
didn't want to give him a lead to
Wow.
for him to lose.
Oh, disappointing.
Uh,
Yeah, I think
no, it looks like it's still on.
I think they're going to still have it, but I don't think that the Democrats are apportioning any delegates out of it.
Oh yeah, no. For sure they're not. They banned the primary,
Yeah,
but New Hampshire is still going to have a primary, and still going to be reported that there's a winner there.
yeah, and
Which
I mean it's going to be Biden, but if
it
you're in
probably will be
New
Biden.
Hampshire, throw a vote for Vermin. Come on,
Yeah, absolutely. In
like
fact,
there's
I just
nothing to
start
lose,
doing that
and
now because yeah, there's a big according to Nick Sarwark, there is a big write-in Biden, write-in Biden, write-in Biden campaign going on the radios and stuff like that.
yeah,
But I mean, this is the time, really, for me. And I love Vermin Supreme. He was my neighbor in Massachusetts. He lived in Rockport, and I lived in Beverly. Uh, he invited me to his house one time for a New Year's Eve party,
Nice.
and the party was actually sitting around a campfire out in the middle of the woods and passing the spliff, or
Nice.
as the kids call it, the blunt. Um, or for
That
those
sounds
who
like a
don't.
solid time right there. That's a way to bring in a new year.
Well, here's the thing. I had been coming back to, I want to talk about this briefly too, coming back to having more cannabis in my life. I was never a heavy user. And I say never a heavy user. I would get high, like in high school, maybe I got high 3 or 4 times. But I
Lame.
mean, I was an athlete, so all through high school
Yeah,
and
that's true.
college. And then probably get high again. Well, when I was in the band, a little bit, but then I didn't get high for like 25 years.
Look at all the
Not
look at all
counting,
the degens in our audience.
yeah, not
Jeez.
counting mushrooms, of course. Right, that's a different pie, and did a lot of mushrooms. Um, but then, I'm at that party with Vernon, and he passes me his joint, and that thing knocked me on my ass.
Oh, I bet.
And like when I came back around, I sort of thought, this
Do
is
you think Vermin would have weak shit?
I didn't think that one puff would knock
Miss.
me out because I am a big dude, right? I'm at, now 245. I would not think that a man my size could be put away by one puff. Yes, AJ?
Oh, I was waving. Somebody says that they're heading off.
Hey, Adam, thanks so much.
Yeah.
Adam is my
Thanks, Adam.
colleague from Real Report. He's a
Nice.
great dude.
Hi,
Right
Adam.
on.
Bye, Adam.
Um,
Thanks for joining us.
so I'm passing the joint.
Nice.
I mean,
Yeah,
what
but
what what
if you're in New Hampshire, throw a vote for Vermin Supreme. I mean, it's the right thing to do and the tasty way to do it, as Wilford Brimley said. So,
Yeah. What's the one answer that one question that no stoner can answer? What were we just talking about?
That's a good one.
hi, how are you?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Iowa, it'll be interesting to see. People who have predictions should post them in the comments
Yeah,
for
yeah,
Iowa.
definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because we're going to
Yeah,
come
so
back
I'm
and
at
review these. And you know what? I am going to say that whoever makes a prediction who's not a host and gets the closest, we're going to send you from my nonprofit, Let.live. We will send you a
spank.
$20 Amazon gift certificate.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
So
wow.
everybody post your best prediction, and whoever gets closest, we will review it tomorrow. And it's going to be a lot of bookkeeping for you, Dave, because people are posting in different places.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
we'll figure it out, and whoever's the closest, we'll
I'll probably
let
open up
live
a an
books.
official. I'll probably open an official thread on my Facebook on the Political
Yeah,
Diva
let's
Facebook page.
let's do
interesting.
that. And
All
then
right.
just remember too that if you like money and political contests and stuff like that, go visit our website at let.live.
There you go. So Iowa is done. In international news this week, big thing. There are actually two big stories that came across this week. First off, the people of Taiwan went to the polls and elected a basically a continuation of their government, but it's a very pro independence. Probably one of the biggest agitators for independence, which was their former vice president, is now their president. The United States congratulated the person on winning the election, and China is not happy, saying that the United States was mistaken to congratulate this gentleman. Let me get his name. Um, All right,
I don't
story.
know what his name is, but it's interesting
Dr.
because
Lai, I believe.
not a great name. Um,
Yeah. For a politician, no. William
right.
William
Well,
Lai, Lai.
it's interesting because Taiwan has a very interesting connection with the libertarian movement in the United States. Um, Taiwan has participatory democracy. They use a software program where, when there is a vote before the legislature, every citizen in Taiwan can log in and vote, and their legislator will see how the people in their district are voting on this issue. And it's really a fascinating thing. What they found was that actually increased participation in their democracy. So, like, I don't know what it is, but if we look at the turnout from the election, I bet it was really high.
Yeah, I believe there was a high number, and because of China's you know, bullying tactics to because they pushed for the opposition to be elected, and the opposition said that if you vote for the other guys, we're going to get blown up by China. And people turned out to vote, and they voted overwhelmingly to bring in basically return the same party, but Mr. Dr. Lai
Right.
as the president now.
Well, it's
He's
interesting. It
much
was
firmer on the idea of independence than the previous administration, who really rankled China to begin with. So this will be interesting times for the island nation of Taiwan, and our
so it's
resolve to defend them.
it's interesting because uh, Lai Lai Ching-te, uh, who's from the Democratic People's Party,
Yep,
uh, only got 40% of the vote. So he wasn't elected with a majority because there were two other candidates. Ho Yui from the Kuomintang.
that's
Uh,
the party that
the,
argued to be kinder to China.
right. Well, those are the guys who actually came from China,
Yeah,
right? They
Chiang
got
Kai-shek's party.
33%. Exactly. They got 33%. And then the Taiwanese People Party got 26%. So it's
I
certainly
mean,
not a majority. I wouldn't
not a
feel like I had a
not,
mandate from the people if I'd only won 40% of the popular vote.
yeah. I mean, but I think with this election, I don't know. I think that there's still a lot of people who are very pro independence on the island of Taiwan, that they don't want to see their future with China, especially with China threatening to attack them at every turn.
Right.
You're not going to see a lowering of the independence mood in Taiwan, especially after seeing what's happened with Hong Kong since the
Right.
Chinese took over, and the crackdown on Hong Kong. So again, it's going to push our resolve in what happens if China really starts to push the idea of taking Taiwan back. How are we going to defend it? Who
Yeah.
joins if China does pull the trigger on it? Do we get the Japanese in on it? Do we get the
I mean,
Philippines, the Australians? I mean, because there are a lot of
it's
people with
interesting
interest
because
in that
it's a
area.
NATO question, right? There's a
Yeah,
similar organization, CETO, right?
yep,
Southeast Asia Treaty Organization, that is Australia, New Zealand, Japan, South Korea, us,
yep.
and I don't know who else would be in it. Um,
Malaysia, Indonesia, probably.
are they in it? That would be interesting.
Uh,
That's a
Malaysia's a
good
little
question.
more friendly. I don't know if the Indonesians are in it. I believe they are, though. Let me
United States, wow. France is in it, and Great Britain. But they can't. Those must have been the founders.
Yeah, I mean, because when you think back when it was founded, likely Vietnam was
Pakistan
still
is in CETO.
yeah,
That's some crazy shit.
yeah, not
Um,
Indonesia though.
not Indonesia, but apparently Vietnam is interested in joining.
Yeah, Vietnam, Laos, and
Cambodia.
Cambodia are interested in joining. Bangladesh is in it.
Yep.
The Philippines are in it.
So it's interesting. I wonder if Bangladesh and Pakistan came at the same time. They probably did, and they see that as sort of a wedge against India, maybe.
Probably.
Wow, I wonder what our obligations are there.
I don't know. That would be an interesting. If I mean, we've been tested on this because you know that India and Pakistan have traded barbs
Well,
across the border several times, and we've got the Jammu and Kashmir
right, and
issue.
they are both nuclear powers, well
Yeah,
established.
and you know the some of the argument for nuclear allowing states to have nuclear weapons is that what has happened between India and Pakistan since the acquisition of nuclear weapons is that they've actually had much more dialogue over border issues rather than just immediately going to firing across the border because they know long wrong
Right.
move brings a lot of countries into the whole
Yeah.
conversation there.
Yeah. I mean, it is pretty crazy. On the other hand, it wasn't that long ago that the ISS, the Pakistani Secret Service, committed a pretty crazy act of terrorism in India,
Yeah.
where which interestingly enough had a very anti-Semitic element to it as well, which
Oh
is
yeah.
crazy. But it's part of what's worth mentioning there is that India is probably the most anti-Muslim nation in the world.
Yeah,
Hindus.
I would say that. Yeah.
I mean, it's not like we're not trying, but the
It's
Hindus
true.
and yeah, Hindus and Sikhs have a history
The Muslim
of
government is brutal with their own domestic Muslim population.
yeah, yeah, it's crazy. And people who don't know, let's not get into it because that's like, I mean, you could make a movie
Yeah.
about it. But Pakistan and Bangladesh both used to be part of India,
Yeah.
and one reason why they're not is a crazy ass story.
Very.
Um, all right, so we we talked about. I don't remember what I talking about. Oh, yeah, what's gonna happen with Taiwan? That is some ugly shit if it does go down, because man,
You would think that the Japanese and the Philippines would get involved because of the South China Sea issues that would likely arise if Taiwan falls to the Chinese.
yeah,
The Australians as well, beyond treaty obligations, I think, would participate in the defense of Taiwan,
right,
um, especially if the United States really goes in full war at the beginning.
right. I mean,
Um,
they would be relying on us.
yeah,
I'm just looking at the distance. It's roughly 80 miles from the mainland, maybe 70 miles to the closest spot in Taiwan. That's nothing.
it's nothing. But again, China's issue, and people, they freak out about China's ability, and they do have. I mean, they've got more uh, um, military aged males in their population than the United States has population.
Right,
So, yes, there is a worry that if we go to war with China, they've got the manpower. Problem with China is they don't neither have the resources to project that power or the ability to project that power very far. They're building it up, but they're
well, I was
not
going to
there
say
yet.
it's very different now. It's a different world now than it was just 20 years ago.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I
Because
mean
20
they
years
do
ago,
have aircraft carriers now. They didn't have
right,
them 20 years ago. They didn't the submarines, all that stuff, but they're
yep,
still way behind the United States. Of course, with the United States budget, that's a different thing. So,
right. And I mean, it's a fascinating thing too. And something we've talked about before, it's worth mentioning again for the listeners, is Dave mentioned aircraft carriers. For a long time, the only country in the world to have an aircraft carrier was the United States. And we have, I think, 12 of them now in active duty.
yeah,
Uh, the British have vertical takeoff and landing airplanes. The Harrier is famous, but they don't have the full
jump jets.
thing.
Yep.
The Russians had one with a scooped ramp for a while. They can laugh because they couldn't actually make one where they could take off. But the Chinese did it. They built a real no shit aircraft carrier,
Yeah.
and they put planes on it. And Now, the interesting thing about it is that another thing where we talk about the esprit de corps and military things in aircraft carriers, only the United States and England do night landings in their aircraft carriers.
Oh,
Everybody else
Ooh,
has too high a degree of it's too high a degree of difficulty for them.
it is a very high degree. I mean, when you think about landing
wow.
on a postage stamp in the middle of the ocean that's rolling and all that fun
It's
stuff, yeah.
it's crazy. Although I do remember that amazing scene in Apollo 13 where Jim Lovell talks about the fact that sometimes, when things are darkest, there's a something's going to happen for you. And so he was coming back from flying a fighter mission in Korea at night off an American carrier, and his instrumentation, he'd been shot a couple times. Instrumentation lights were uh, going in and out. But at one point, and as such, he didn't have a compass or anything. And so he couldn't find the carrier. And he flew back out and he's running out of fuel and he doesn't know what to do. And then all the lights on the compass go out and it's essentially alone at night. But without those lights shining in his eyes, he's able to see the phosphorescent trail that's got turned up by the carrier. And
Oh,
so he
okay.
follows that and finds the carrier and is able to land there. And I always thought it was just an amazing story. And sometimes it really is, it needs to be at the darkest before you can find your way home.
Yeah. That's crazy. Fast stories from the churn of a ship actually brings you home from the stuff on the bottom of the ocean, the
Right,
plankton and things like that. Yeah.
right. And
Yes.
it means that Americans were doing carrier landings in the
Korean.
50s, the night carrier landings in the 50s. Should be pointed out, the Japanese did have real carriers. Uh, they don't because they are now banned by treaty from
Yeah.
doing that.
That I mean, that is a question that does pop up when it comes to Taiwan. Is would the United States? And I think they would. I think they would uh, be okay with Japan
It's a
moving off the
fascinating.
pacifist.
It's such a crazy thing because I mean, it really was. I mean, this is a great world political discussion, right? I mean, how many times did Germany go to war and kick everybody's ass? Uh, and took the combined might of the world. We talk about this all the time. We think about what the American sacrifice was in World War II, what the British sacrifice was, but whew, that Russian sacrifice was
Yeah,
something else.
yeah.
The Russians were the only ones who could have beaten the Wehrmacht, which was, at the time, the greatest army assembled in the history of the world. I mean, and
Huh.
not just technically, but as an army, everything. And the Russians took that punch. Um, and so we said, the way we do this is Germany, you just can't have an army ever again. All you can do is, have a little bit of self defense. And Japan, same thing. And if you guys want to be aggressive, then you should do it economically. Well, holy shit, that worked out for everybody,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Um,
Oh,
but here we are in this scenario, and there's the four dragons, right? South Korea, uh,
Singapore, Japan,
and Taiwan.
Taiwan. Yeah,
Um, you think that they're all tied together pretty closely. I mean, South Korea is in this weird place that they're pretty friggin' heavily militarized because they have to be.
yep.
But I mean, is there winning a war versus China? I wish we had a Marine on who could tell us the story of the Quezon Reservoir. But for people who don't know, it's a great example of what it's like to really fight a land war in China.
Yeah.
So during the Korean War, the North Koreans are winning. They push MacArthur back. And then he does this surprise assault where he comes around and he lands in Incheon, cuts off the Korean army, and then starts rapidly advancing towards the border. And so the Americans, the UN forces are winning, right? They're capturing everything. Janice is right. Nobody really
Yep.
wins when it comes to a war. However, at the Quezon Reservoir, the Chinese decide that they're going to intervene. And so they assemble an army. And this is, really before serious satellites or anything like that. So we knew it was a big army. We didn't know how big it was. The Chinese brought more troops than the Americans brought bullets. And so they sent wave after wave of, the story can be checked for accuracy. I don't know how true it is. I know it's a story that I learned during the height of the Cold War. But they sent wave after wave of soldiers hopped up on amphetamines who just charged the American lines until they broke them. And the Chinese had broken through, and it was going to be a complete disaster. The entire American army was going to be destroyed until one Marine division at the Quezon Reservoir decided that's a good show in the background there.
Yeah.
But one Marine division decided they were going to stop the Chinese while the rest of the Americans evacuated. And they held the pass at Quezon until the Americans were safe. And none of those guys made it home, or very few did.
Just a quick playoff update. The Detroit Lions defeated the Rams 24-23.
Wow, that was a tight little game.
Yeah, it was a tight game. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about the rest of the playoffs, but I am rooting for Detroit and Buffalo.
I would love to see Buffalo win the title. Like, there's something.
I just want somebody who's never won before.
Yeah.
So that means not Green Bay, not San Francisco, not Pittsburgh. Cleveland's out. Texans could win it. That would be fine with me.
Yeah. Let's see. The other game tomorrow night's Tampa and Philadelphia. So, yeah, both of them won it. So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Buffalo, Houston, or Detroit would be good.
Yep.
You wanted to talk about a story coming out of the state of Mississippi.
Yes. So there's been this idea among states in the union, certain states, that they are going to protest the federal government and the welfare state by refusing certain services. In Mississippi, the governor decided that they were going to refuse the summer school lunch program, which would spend $1.33 a day to ensure that the students who are getting free lunches at school would continue to get lunches during the summer, which I like to think I'm as small government as the next guy or girl or person or as the next sentient species. However, I am very sure that the last thing I would remove from the control of the government is the part where it's handing out food to starving people. I mean, it's the one thing that I can say, you know what? Everybody who wants to organize and get in on that, let me just shut my brother up for a second. Great. Please help us out. Help us feed more people. And if it's the government, whatever, I'd much rather they spend my tax money on food services for people who are hungry. And, it is, the statistics about hunger in the United States are insane.
Mhm.
1 out of 5 children in the United States is food insecure. That doesn't mean that they're starving, but it means that they don't know where they're getting their next meal. And that's crazy.
Yeah.
And people need to think about it, because if you think about it in depth, you'll understand what that actually means for the lives of the people who are living in this level of poverty. It is this loosely interwoven network of parents and grandparents and friends and caregivers. And somehow they're going to find a way to make sure that that kid gets fed. But that's not a somehow. That's not an experience that most of us grew up with, right? I knew that dinner was at home. If I didn't have dinner somewhere, I could come home and I could get dinner. And that level of insecurity means that when one strand of the net breaks, somebody falls through. And the thing that stops that net breaking for a lot of people is the $1.33 per student that the government is spending. And you think per day, $40 a month. And you think of the stupid shit that the government spends $40 on. So all these governors who are refusing what they call state welfare, it's nothing about state welfare, actually, because if they wanted to do that, they could say, oh, you know what? We're not going to accept military surplus anymore. Because military surplus, first of all, it's ridiculous. Why does your local police department need a tank and a machine gun and a mortar? But you could also refuse money for your state universities. You could say, you know what? We're not going to accept federal student loans anymore at our state universities. Now, me personally,
Farmers,
I actually think that's a good idea. But what were you going to say, Dave?
farmers.
Farmers, great example. When I looked it up in Mississippi, agriculture, actually, so agriculture is the number one place where government subsidizes business. Number two is boat building and repair. And that's really an unusual thing because there's not a lot of shipbuilding happening in the United States,
Yeah.
except in this very specific circumstance where you want to build boats that can travel up and down the Mississippi. And they have a very specific design. So Mississippi gets a lot of government subsidies. Refuse those things if you want to do it, because those things are the agriculture is like $5 billion a year, and the shipbuilding is like $7 billion a year. School lunch program, like I said, it's $40 a month per student. It's insane. And so the reason I want to talk about it is I just want to get everybody to say, you know what? We can be as anti-government as we want. We can be against state spending and stuff like that. And in general, when somebody says, think of the children, that is a precursor to somebody taking away your rights.
Doing something stupid. Yeah.
But in this one case, right? I mean, what is the lowest level of sustenance? If I were to say, you can wave a wand and people don't have to worry about this one thing anymore, you would say hunger. So,
Exactly. Like, even in my deepest, darkest days of being within the Libertarian Party and flirting with anarcho-capitalism and things like that, for me, I always said that the last thing that I would cut on the road to ending stuff would be the personal welfare, things like
food stamps, SNAP,
feeding
WIC.
school lunches, SNAP, the women,
Yep,
WIC, things like that.
Mhm.
Those are the last things you cut on the road because you would hope that at that point we've demonstrated well enough that free market ideas would provide, and if not, then we can stop there and continue to provide. Sorry about that. Provide those priorities to continue to feed people. Uh,
yep,
Mhm.
I would say let's stop doing the corporate welfare. That's the stuff I would cut first.
right.
Absolutely.
Because we give money to, we were talking about Rex Tillerman, we give money to Exxon.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know why. We would give money. All right, talk amongst yourselves.
yeah,
You're talking
and
about the different governors that are doing this. Bill Lee's doing the exact same
yeah,
thing. We just got a Smith& and Wesson, factory warehouse in Maryville, Tennessee, and I'm sure that there were, there were probably some tax cuts and, special privileges given because a lot of GOP folks were there for the groundbreaking. Everybody's smiling these big, huge smiles. And then they start talking about turning down federal funding for the schools, which also includes the breakfasts and lunches that they get. It includes things like IEPs and 504s for your special education students. Um, I- I'm blown away by, we are so pro-life,
Pro-birth.
except we're not pro-life at all. We are just pro-birth
Yeah.
because when it comes to actual children, they don't care about that at all. And I don't know if Mississippi's got this going on, but I know that Tennessee is concerned currently looking at school vouchers, which is also going to strip money away from public schools. So,
I mean, it would be nice if, like they said, okay, part of the school voucher process is to ensure that there's still going to be food for everybody.
Yeah.
Because I think, we've talked on this show before, and this is certainly part of some of my stump speeches, is that I worry about government wanting to control charity. Because I think that's a bad thing too. Because we are changed as a people if we no longer think that we are responsible for each other. If the saddest thing I would ever hear on the campaign trail was, that's what I pay taxes for. Because people think that paying taxes absolves them from the responsibility of, you know, one of the primary commandments, right? To love your neighbor, you should love yourself. But I say that I want us to own those charity pieces. At the very bottom of it all, the reason why we have all those things there is because if you are a parent and you can't feel yourself, you can't fuel yourself, you can't feed yourself, it's it's shameful, and you live with that shame. But if you can't feed your children, you're suddenly in a place where you are changed permanently. Your character is changed because you've reached this part where the only obligation that you think you have failed at. And so now you start to think, you know what? This breakdown of society, my job is to do whatever I can to feed my child, and I wasn't able to do it. I'm going to start doing some more extreme things. I'm going to change the way my relationship works with the idea of society. Whereas if at least we had this thing of this is here for everybody, like Feeding America used to be called Second Harvest, is my number one go-to charity. And they usually set up things in a way that if you need food, you walk in and you can get it. And that's it. Okay. And there's, some other stuff to try to help people out and things like that. But the idea that people don't have to feel that break, that failure in their lives, and that we allow them to preserve that level of dignity. And it's hard. It is hard for people to go to food banks. It's hard for them to say, I need this level of help. That alone is a compromise on most people's character. But if you need it and you can get it, it's better than if you need it and you can't get it.
Yeah.
So let's ask everybody, and I know we got to boogie a little bit before the quiz, but if there's a chance where you get to stand up for programs that give food to people who are starving, let's just always stand up for that.
Yeah. A lot of people talk about, we can't do immigration until we get rid of welfare. I, you know, uh, Welfare to me, and there's plenty of research and things that point to the fact that the people that come across the border don't get the welfare services that they'll people that demonize them accuse them of getting. They just don't.
Right.
And the idea of restricting people's human freedom to move and determine their own destiny. um, I think it's complete horse crap to make it dependent on the uh, welfare issue. And again, I'm not focusing on people's welfare. I'm focusing on corporate welfare for
Mhm.
people who are wealthy and connected. AJ, you're right. Like in West Virginia, every week we get some announcement about a state or local government doling out tax breaks for some corporation, begging for them to come in, and then 5 years when that tax break is over, that corporation hightails it across the
Yes.
border to another place that's
Mhm.
going to give them benefits. Um, we're in this continual cycle of this. So, um,
Mhm.
that's where if you want fraud, waste, and abuse, and you want to deal with that on a welfare level, that's where you need to look at.
That's where you go. Uh-huh.
That's where the money is. Willie Sutton said, why'd you rather rob banks? That's where the money is. Go
Yeah.
where the
John
money
Dillinger.
is. Dillinger, it's a lot of people
It's
have been
unclear who may have said it.
who said it, but yeah, I mean, famous bank robber will tell you that's where the money is. That's why they rob
Yeah.
banks. So,
Yeah.
um,
And if you ask politicians why they run for office, because that's
that's
where
where
the
the
money
money
is.
is. Absolutely.
Let's do the news quiz.
Yeah. And we'll wrap up any other stories we want to talk about afterwards. So let us do the quiz.
Mm.
See my big ass face. There we go. There we go. Were you trying to pick my
Nice.
nose? All right. Context clues. We saw some snow there. We saw. I'm not sure where that was, but yeah. So it looks like some Greek columns, some snow, and somewhere in the southern hemisphere or Mexico. I'm not really sure. It was
Yep.
Spanish there. All right. So
Mm.
question number one. And remember, feel free to put the comments in and play along with us. We would love to see your comments. So, question number one: where did CNN's Republican primary debate take place this week? Did anybody else watch that besides me?
I did not.
Mm.
It was awful. It
I'm
was
not
just
voting
two people.
Republican.
It was just Haley and DeSantis. They
Yeah.
were just awful to each other. We'll allow people a chance to answer. The choices are Iowa, Wisconsin, Arizona, or Georgia. And if you are watching,
I say
Facebook
how
user
couldn't
says
be Iowa.
Iowa. I watched Iowa. I'm sorry, Janice, but you are right. It was the
Yep.
state of Iowa in Des Moines. All right,
Mm.
question number two. Which of the following is critically short supply at U.S. hospitals? Gloves, masks, blood, or oxygen?
AJ's got to know this,
Mhm.
but it can't be oxygen.
I would hope not.
Um,
No.
it's,
I'm seeing yellow and
yeah,
pink. I'm seeing
It's
blue.
blood.
Are you saying blood?
blood. All right.
Mhm.
Is it blood? Oh, and Janice says blood as well.
Mhm.
All right.
All right. We are correct. Yes. U.S. facing an
Oh.
emergency blood shortage. The Red Cross said the number of donors has hit a 20-year low amid growing concern the shortage may
All
delay
right.
medical procedures. All
So
right.
everybody should this week go give blood.
Go get
So
blood.
easy to do.
Play hockey, get
And
blood.
they give you cookies.
Yeah. Snacks. Gotta
Yep.
love that.
They send me birthday cards.
Nice.
Yes.
I have
Specifically
O
type
I
O
have
because it is universal donor.
yes, O negative.
My dad, same thing, universal donor. And he worked at a hospital for 9 months out of the year. And so he gave blood as often as he could, which I think is every 6 weeks. And he was at the hospital from 1970 till whatever. He worked there for essentially 50 years. Uh, and so he gave so much blood that they gave him like this plaque at the end It was just
Oh,
astonishing.
Nice.
so cool.
All right, question number 3. Which movie won a number of major categories at the 2024 Golden Globes Awards? Barbie, Oppenheimer, Avatar, or Taylor Swift The Eras Tour?
I think I know
Oppenheimer.
this.
What'd you say, AJ?
I said Oppenheimer.
I
Oppenheimer?
I didn't
agree that it's
actually watch.
Oppenheimer.
Barbenheimer?
I also haven't seen it yet. I mean, it's crazy that Barbie's out on streaming, but Oppenheimer isn't.
Hey, Barbie ASL is out on streaming.
I haven't seen that yet.
Oh,
Yes.
so I was watching an ad. So last night was the outdoor game for the AHL. So Rochester Americans, Buffalo Sabres affiliate in the AHL, is having something really cool. I'd never seen this before. They're having a sensory a game where they're doing a limited sensory. So like the big goal horn, not playing there.
That's
The arena
cool.
is a lot more quiet. The announcements over the not big
Hmm.
celebratory stuff. So it's for to help people with sensory issues go to a game and enjoy themselves and not be overloaded. And I thought that was really really cool.
That is
That
pretty
is
cool.
amazing. I love that.
Had several people say Oppenheimer. Awesome, good stuff. Ken said Tay Tay. I don't think that movie came out in enough time for it to be considered for the
She was there
awards.
nominated for that movie,
Yeah, yeah,
but
Oh,
no,
was
it
she?
was.
she didn't win
Oh,
Yep,
anything. Yeah.
yep. There was a big scandal because uh, Joy Coy made a
Made
joke
a joke.
about how it says, "What's the difference between the Golden Globes and an NFL game? We're only going to cut away to Taylor Swift once,"
oh, damn.
which I thought was pretty funny. She didn't apparently think it was so funny, but
Well,
I mean,
go yourself.
she puts up with so much stuff so
Sure.
gracefully. It's okay for her to have made a little face about that.
Yeah.
Um, but I do. Jesus, I want to watch Oppenheimer. It's the
I
only
do
movie I
too.
wanted to watch
Well,
last year.
I want to
Still
watch
not
Barbie and
streaming.
Oppenheimer. So Barbie is out on.
Barbie's on Max.
Okay.
I watched it.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
I'm gonna
it
spend
wasn't a
like
bad movie.
$15,000 a year on just subscription services. I had to get Peacock to watch the playoff game last night. Like,
Oh, dude. Uh, yeah, you should share an ESPN Plus solution with some of your hockey buddies.
oh yeah, go get ESPN Plus if you're a sports fan. It's not just hockey.
Yeah,
College football. If you love college football and like me,
college
my
basketball.
college basketball, college baseball, volleyball.
Yeah,
I love the volleyball.
all that
Um,
stuff.
yeah, absolutely. Oh, and on YouTube, if you're a hockey fan, the Professional Women's Hockey League is playing their games free on YouTube. Absolutely cool, really good hockey. Check it out if you're a hockey fan.
It's interesting. Women's hockey leagues had such a sort of hit or miss with connecting with audiences in the United States. They seem to have a nice upswing right now. Really
Yeah.
hope it's going to last.
Well, the problem with the previous hockey leagues is they couldn't get it together across the border. So
Right,
there was a Canadian league, and then there was an American league,
right.
and then there were players playing. Some players were actually playing on both leagues, um, and they it was time for them to combine the leagues. I just wish that the team that was in Buffalo had made it into the new league. There are some things I'm not really happy about the new league. Like none of the teams actually have an identity. That's just the city.
Yeah,
But apparently that's going to start coming in the next year or so.
yeah.
But all right,
I do want to know whoever it was who said Barbie is a shockingly good movie. We only see you as Facebook user. If you are
I
somebody we
think
know,
it's
do you know who it is?
one of your shares.
One of my shares. All right.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
check
go
out one of
hunt
your
down and
shares.
find out who that is. Um, okay, let's keep
All right.
going with the
All right,
questions.
question number 4. Which recalled food was recently linked to a multi-state salmonella outbreak? Canned tuna, fruit cups, charcuterie meats, um, and almond butter.
I agree with Janice.
Yeah, and Facebook user as well. Charcuterie meats. Correct. The CDC announced a recall of some charcuterie meats that were shipped to Sam's Club's distribution centers. At least 24 illnesses, including 5 hospitalizations, have been recorded across the U.S. Ooh, Lord of
That's pretty
mercy.
brutal.
That's
All
rough.
right. Question number 5. Which airline this week said it would found loose bolts on several grounded Boeing 737 MAX 9 planes? United, American, Southwest, or Frontier? I would eliminate Frontier just because I don't think they have anything that fancy.
They're still flying the 727.
I think they're still flying the Wilbur Orville and Wilbur Wright planes and charging for everything.
I don't know, but I would guess.
It's
I
either
guess
United or American.
yeah, they're the big ones. I mean, Southwest is big, but it's either United or American. I'm trying to look at the context clues. I'm going to guess United. Let's see if we get a user guess in.
Anyone?
Bueller.
Bueller? Anyone? DOO Economics.
All right, let's try United.
Let's do United. Correct.
Yeah.
Just days after Alaska Airlines plug door blew off in mid-flight, United Airlines found loose bolts on an undisclosed number of grounded 737 MAX 9 planes in its fleet. All of the MAX 9 aircraft grounded by the FAA are undergoing inspections to ensure passenger safety.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right. It was the Alaskan Airlines that lost their door.
Yep.
Always concerning. You don't want to have the 555 or 455 air conditioning system on the plane.
I mean, it is
There's
a
a
crazy.
video of people taking a selfie and they're like, they point it this way and you can see the doors open.
Didn't
And
one
they're
get
like,
ripped
"Well,
out? There was like an iPhone that got ripped out the
Yes, no,
door.
an iPhone fell out and survived.
It survived.
The person found it with the Find My iPhone app.
That's killer.
that's crazy."
It is pretty cool.
What kind of
16,000
case
feet.
did they have?
It's a good question that they should sell the advertising for that. I mean, you
Absolutely.
got to figure
Absolutely
it
should.
probably is going to fall. It's going to flip and stuff like that. So it's not maximum velocity. Probably hit some tree branches because they were over a forest at the time. But
Yeah.
it's an amazing story.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, if I'm Apple, I'm putting that out like
Well,
as
not only that, I mean, what you want is there's an accelerometer in the phone. I think
yeah.
that when the phone detects that it's moving faster than 70 miles an hour, it should turn itself on and start recording whatever the fuck's going on.
There's got to be something. How?
All right. Question number 6. Which country recently declared an internal armed conflict after gunmen took over a live TV broadcast? And I actually saw this story. So
I know this too.
Um,
I will give people a hint that it's close to the equator.
yes. Well, yeah, you could make a case that the writing could be
Janice
for
has
any of
got it.
those countries.
Yep, it was indeed Ecuador, Janice.
It was yes in Ecuador. A drug lord escaped from prison and has caused all kinds of havoc there. The drug gangs are trying to exact some revenge. So President Daniel Noboa declared an internal armed conflict in Ecuador. Yeah, it was very harrowing. If you saw the video of the armed gunmen taking over a TV studio and the dudes basically begging for their lives. Um, so yeah, dark times for Ecuador.
Yeah,
It looks like.
unfortunately.
Yeah. Question number 7. Which former president scored an Emmy this week for outstanding narration? Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, or George W. Bush?
I'm looking at the picture, and it doesn't look like Barack Obama, but that's what I would have guessed.
That's what I would have guessed too. He's got a really nice.
Was it Bill Clinton?
Oh God, please! That would be a bad week to put Bill Clinton as the.
Yeah. I mean, it looks
I
like the
would
white
think
hair,
so.
and it looks like he's flipping everybody off. So that makes it seem like it's Bill Clinton.
It could be. Uh, let's see if anybody in the audience has.
But yeah, I was thinking Barack when you were reading the
Oh, we
question.
got George W. We got Obama
Can
from
George W.
Janice.
read? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry. I lived through his presidency. It was my early
Uh,
20s. I'm a smart ass when it comes to
He
uh,
him.
is. And it's true, he is a diagnosed dyslexic, so he can't read great.
yeah.
Um, but uh, I got to go with Obama. And
Yeah.
Janice says Obama too.
That's
All right. Oh, it is.
oh,
Oh, it is. He's not
wow.
flipping off the camera.
Nope.
He
So
is
President
not.
Barack Obama won Creative Arts Emmy for Outstanding Narrator for his Netflix documentary series Working What We Do All Day. Interesting. All right, question number 8. Which school won the college football playoff national championship this week?
I can't even believe they put Oklahoma in this list. It's like such an insult to Texas.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they should have had the 4 finalists at least.
Right.
Um, and you know, or
So not
if you're gonna
Oklahoma.
throw somebody off the trail, maybe put Georgia in there. But Washington, Alabama, Michigan, or Oklahoma, it was Facebook user got it. Michigan.
Hmm.
Michigan
We'll
Wolverines were
go
victorious in Monday's championship
Michigan.
game against the Washington Huskies. It was Michigan's first college football national title since 1997. And this is the last
Ooh.
season we have 4 teams in the playoff. I'm looking forward to 12 teams. I would love to see it go to 24. All right. Question number 9. Which type of event placed millions of Americans under severe weather alerts across the central and eastern U.S. this week? Tropical cyclone, winter storm, heat wave, or wildfire? Come on, this one's.
This is crazy.
How many layers are y'all wearing?
The Facebook user is Sherry. Hey Sherry, how's it going?
Hey Sherry, how you doing?
Have you been working on that this whole time?
No.
Winter storm, yeah. AJ, you're in the middle of it now.
I
Uh,
am. Y'all think I'm joking. No, there is the
Take it
t-shirt.
off.
There is the cuddle dumbs, goosebumps.
woohoo.
There is the pajama pants, and there is more cuddle duds.
Nice.
Noise. All right. Yeah, so
You're
Yeah,
gonna
you're
get
getting
snow tomorrow.
snow.
Yeah,
Dan and
I'm
I are
supposed to
not
get snow
getting.
tomorrow.
Yeah, you're getting snow tomorrow. We're supposed to get snow on
it's
Tuesday.
snowing right now. That's why I was late running back in here as I was looking at the snow.
Nice.
Nice.
But yeah, winter storm, parts of central and eastern U.S. In fact, the playoff game that was supposed to happen this afternoon between Buffalo and Pittsburgh was moved to tomorrow. My hockey
So
game, I'll be doing an episode of The Scabbard tomorrow at 11 a.m. because the game got moved to 12 p.m.
I have
And
to say I criticized moving the NFL game, but then they showed this morning a live cam from the studio, from the
oh yeah,
whatever is it, it's Rich Apple, whatever Buffalo Stadium's called,
oh it's Highmark Stadium.
Highmark Stadium. No, dude, that would have been unplayable. You could not have played a game in that.
Oh, I mean it's the entire lower bowl is pretty much just level at this
Well,
point.
but also just the wind was so high and there was so much snow that there was no visibility at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, we've played games where there has been reduced. I think we remember the fog bowl and all that, but
Well, there's
you
a funny
know,
story about the Fog Bowl that Mike Ditka realized the referees couldn't see both sides of the field, and so he would put like 12 to 14 players on defense.
that's awesome. But yeah, so that's been moved to Monday afternoon, which I think it provides good symmetry with all the playoff games. You had 2 games a day. Tomorrow's a holiday for a lot of people. Not everybody, but tomorrow's a holiday. So 4:30, the Buffalo versus Steelers game is on. I criticized the NHL for having the game yesterday, Saturday for Buffalo, after moving the Bills game. at least not moving it up, so that the teams can get in and out of town. Employees can get to and from the arena. They just, they really screwed the Sabres by continuing to hold the game at 4:30 because the NHL has a TV deal with ABC to broadcast a game during the week during Saturday, and they didn't want another game going up head to head against the Rangers versus the Capitals, but they chose to continue to play the game in a more unsafe thing. So, all right. Question number 10, and chance for a perfect week again, 2 weeks in a row. Tourists can now stroll through the palace where Alexander the Great was crowned. Where is this newly reopened monument? France, Italy, Egypt, or Greece? I mean, I would cut out France and Italy immediately. I would
Yeah.
default to Greece because he's from Macedonia.
Yep. It's got to
But
be
there's always a
Greece. I
chance
mean,
that it could have been Egypt. I mean,
right. I mean, Ptolemy is a Greek name, right? He's
yep,
founded the dynasty there.
Janice says
Um,
Egypt.
Janice says Egypt. Janice, how confident are you that it's Egypt? Because I could go with that. I could see it.
But
And Greece seems
you would
too
think,
easy.
you would think that he would be crowned in Greece, where his empire was founded. But maybe it was a different crowning. I don't know. All right.
Maybe
What do y'all think? What do you think?
I would go with Greece, and we're looking at a perfect score here, so I'm nervous about it.
I know I'm nervous about this too, and it
I'm
feels like
looking
it's
at
too
this. I'm
easy.
looking at this picture though, and I've been to Greece. This looks like Greece to me. Doesn't look like Egypt.
Okay. All right. I think I can be talked into Greece. What do you? Facebook user says Greece.
Sherry says Greece.
Sherry. Sherry did us right a few weeks ago. So,
Sherry was awesome a couple weeks ago.
AJ, what do you think? Greece, Egypt,
I thought Greece first.
Egyptian
So
Greece.
when I take tests, I go with my first
All right,
instinct. So
Greece. Yeah.
Yeah.
yay!
High five.
Oh,
High five, self.
woohoo! Yay, we won.
Yeah.
All right. So,
Hey, Dave, can we talk about that lamps commercial that they show in the hockey game by the people who buy the house?
it's like a Geico commercial or something like
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Hockey lamps.
Yeah,
That's
I
kind
hear
of
that.
annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so that's awesome. I'm glad to see that. Uh, I want to give a little personal shout out. I think a lot of people who know us, who know the movement, know Tiffany Madison. She was campaign manager for the McAfee campaign. And
Ah,
if you know her, you're friends with her on Facebook, this would be a really good time to reach out. Stop in, see how she's doing. She's been fighting cancer for a long time. 2 years ago, rang the bell for free and clear at MD Anderson, which is the greatest place to be for cancer. But you know, a different kind of cancer came back, and she's trying everything right now. But this would be a good time to reach out. So if you know Tiffany Madison, now's a good time to talk to her and tell her some happy memories.
yep. And fuck cancer.
Yeah,
I
I
mean, yeah.
mean, it is when we confront our own mortality, right? The the hardest thing about it is leaving everybody else, right? I mean, I think about this all the time, and Dave, I'm guessing you have a similar thought to me, being in the same boat as me, right? A man with no children and a body that is more often than not
especially this week.
inconvenient and painful.
Yeah.
And I think what a joy it would be to just sleep and not wake up and to be free from worry because, right? Worry is so consuming and it sucks so bad.
But
But
for me, my worry is not my mortality or my body or my health. It is
exactly,
my family. It's my love.
exactly. That's the thing to
That's what
keep
it
us
is.
going. Yep. And I've said this before, but there's this great line in Hannah and Her Sisters where Woody Allen is talking with a woman that he's just started dating, and she's like, "My God, you sound suicidal." He's like, "Well, I am suicidal. I'm not happy." He's like, I would kill myself, but my parents would be so upset. I'd have to kill them first. It would be a bloodbath. So yeah, fuck
uh,
yeah.
yeah, fuck cancer.
Go home, have a good night.
I think most of
Uh,
us know Chris Clements. His fiance has been battling cancer for a while as well, and,
yep,
they're in my thoughts. There are a lot of people I know that are battling, whether it's cancer or any other life threatening issue. Just know you're in our thoughts, and we want to make sure that you're happy and hopefully healthy soon. So,
yeah.
but with that, anything else for the week?
Tomorrow's MLK Day.
Yeah.
As much as you might despair about the Liberty Movement, think how much those guys had to despair during the Civil Rights Movement,
Yeah.
and they kept going, and they made a lot of progress. It ain't
Yeah.
over,
Dan, we're gonna
but
have to talk though. 'Cause we got Liberty Con coming up.
yeah, I'm
We got to
excited
figure
about
out.
that too.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. But yeah, next week, I'll probably be a little tired next week because we've got my wife's 50th birthday. So happy
That's exciting
birthday,
too.
Aaliyah! 50 years.
Happy birthday.
And other than that, AJ, you got anything that you want to talk about?
Not this week. Nothing big has happened this week.
All
Bruce
right.
just stayed home.
Oh, Chase is at the Iowa caucuses. Interesting. Well, I hope Chase has a good time. I know that the Iowa LP didn't do a really good job of advertising their caucuses, but you know, as a party, I think they had to have them. So, but anyway, thanks for joining us this week. We'll talk to you all next week. Say good night, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.
Like
There we go.
crazy.
All right. Talk to y'all later. Have a great one.